Welcome to the video lecture for section 6.2, and in this section we'll learn about indirect objects and indirect object pronouns. So in the previous chapter 5, we learned about direct objects, and to identify the direct object of a question, you ask what. So for example, in this sentence right here, Robert lends $100 to Luisa. We ask the question, what does Robert lend? Robert lends 100 pesos. So 100 pesos is the direct object of the sentence. Now we also learned that you can replace that direct object in the sentence with the direct object pronoun. In this case, since 100 pesos is masculine and plural, the direct object would be los. So you could have, and we know that the direct object pronoun can go either before a conjugated verb or attached to the end of an infinitive verb. In this sentence, we only have a conjugated verb, so you could say, Roberto los presta a Luisa. Another way to say it. As for an indirect object pronoun, the question that it answers is to whom. So in this sentence, Robert lends 100 pesos to Luisa. So we ask the question, to whom does Robert lend 100 pesos? To Luisa. So in this sentence, Luisa would be the indirect object of the sentence. Here's another example. Yo le doy un regalo a Juan. I give a present to Juan. So we ask the question, ¿qué or what do I give, or qué doy? Un regalo. So in this sentence, un regalo is the direct object. And if we ask the question, ¿a quién or to whom? ¿A quién le doy un regalo, or to whom do I give a gift? A Juan. So in this case, Juan would be the indirect object of the sentence. So just like direct objects, indirect objects have their own pronouns. So you can see here a better table of it. If you notice, the indirect object pronouns are the same for yo, tú, and nosotros. The only difference is the third person singular and plural, where it's simply le or les, depending on if it's singular or plural. There's no difference if it's masculine or feminine like direct objects. For indirect objects, it's simply le or les. In terms of the use, in most sentences, a sentence will have both the indirect object pronoun and the indirect object. So you can see here, ella le vende la ropa a Elena. She sells clothes to Elena. To whom does she sell clothes? A Elena. So Elena is the indirect object, and the pronoun is le, since it's a singular indirect object, so le. And just like direct object pronouns, the indirect object pronouns can either be placed before the conjugated verb or attached to the infinitive verb. Now in the next chapter, we'll learn about using both indirect objects and direct object pronouns together. But for now, know that they can be placed in the same place, before the conjugated verb or attached to the end of the infinitive verb. In this case, les prestamos el dinero a Inés y Alexa. To whom do we lend money? A Inés y Alexa. So indirect object pronoun would be les. You can also just have simply the indirect object pronoun in the sentence without the indirect object once context has been established and you know who you're talking about. So in this case, imagine if these were two sequential sentences here. Ana le presta la falda a Elena. To whom does Ana lend the dress? A Elena. So Elena is the indirect object. Indirect object pronoun is le, placed before the conjugated verb prestar. Ana le presta la falda a Elena. También le presta unos jeans. So instead of adding a Ana at the end again, since you already know who you're talking about, you can just have the indirect object pronoun. Similar to direct object pronouns, like I said, they go before the conjugated verb, and if you're negating it, the no goes before the pronoun. So no me escribe cartas in this case. And what this section talks about right here is simply when using an indirect object pronoun with the present progressive, it either goes before the verb estar or attached to the end of the present participle. Some common verbs that you'll see frequently used with indirect object pronouns and indirect objects are decir and dar, to say and to give. So you can see the conjugations. We've already learned decir. So you can see some examples down here where it's either attached to the end of the infinitive, voy a darle, or placed before the conjugated me dan. So for the first homework assignment, all you have to do is put in the corresponding indirect object pronoun. So first, you have to identify the indirect object and then figure out what the corresponding pronoun is. So for number 1, pido a la profesora los libros de español. I asked the professor for the Spanish books. To whom do we ask for the Spanish books? To the professor. So la profesora is the indirect object of the sentence. The corresponding pronoun, since it's singular, would be le. So it would be le pido a la profesora los libros de español. Number 2, Amelia blank pregunta a nosotras a dónde queremos ir. Amelia asks us where we want to go. To whom does Amelia ask? Us. So nosotras is the indirect object. The corresponding pronoun is nos. So Amelia nos pregunta a nosotras a dónde queremos ir. Number 3, el empleado blank busca trabajo a sus primas en el almacén. The employee looks for work for his cousins in the store. To whom does the employee look for work? For his cousins. So a sus primas would be the indirect object. The corresponding pronoun would be les. So el empleado les busca trabajo. For the second homework, all you have to do is rewrite the sentence, placing the indirect object pronoun in another position that it could be in. So first sentence, les vas a dar muchos regalos a tus padres. Well, les is the indirect object pronoun. A tus padres is the indirect object. And in this case, the indirect object was placed before the conjugated verb. The other place that we could put it is attached to the infinitive verb, dar. So you rewrite the sentence as vas a darles muchos regalos a tus padres. For number 2, quiero comprarles unos guantes a mis sobrinos. To whom do you want to buy gloves? For the cousin or nephews, mis sobrinos. So the indirect object pronoun is les, and it's attached to the infinitive verb here, comprar. So to rewrite the sentence, you would put the indirect object pronoun before the conjugated verb quiero, and it would end up being les quiero comprar unos guantes a mis sobrinos.